Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Safe2Talk.
Assalamualaikum, everybody. So today's topic is going to be a little bit different. I feel like I say that all the time, but basically, we're going to be addressing something that's happened to us personally, and we just thought it was time to talk about it. I posted a video on my TikTok, so it's an old video that I made last year. I took from my Instagram, reposted it on TikTok. Didn't really think much of it, and the video is kind of like my daughter and I just answering questions we get because we are a blended family. For those of you who don't know, like when I met my husband, he already had a daughter, and then we just blended. So it's just us answering a bunch of common questions we receive. Like I do know that putting your life out there, people have a lot of questions and will be curious, and I'm more than open to answering those questions, especially if they're DM to me, because I feel like it's a little bit more private. So on that video, like a few people commented on the post, and some of the comments that stood out were like, "Oh, like this is the same girl that's like going around and like bragging about the fact that like her husband took the kid from the ex, and that he will do the same thing to me, and like that I you reap what you sow." So basically, and then other people commented about how they've never seen blended families, like a stepmom and a stepkid, be this happy, and that it must be all fake. So I'm the type of person to comment back, as you already know. I reply back, and that's just because I don't understand why people comment these things without really knowing the full story, right?
Yeah.
So, not that we owe anybody anything, but we just wanted to touch up on a few points.
So yeah, I mean, definitely, I don't want to go into too much detail, but I do owe you guys a bit of a little bit
Clarity.
of clarity. Yeah. So I got separated with my ex around 2012, and then because of certain situation, we had to go to court to see who will get the custody. At first would have been 50-50, but due to certain circumstance, it had to be someone that take full responsibility. So, alhamdulillah, thankfully, the court gave me the custody. Since then, since Aisha was 3 year old, she was under my legal custody. So, um, I wasn't planning to do it. That wasn't my intention. It just happened the way it happened, and alhamdulillah, it worked all
It worked out.
it worked out,
Yeah.
and I always wanted to do what's best for my daughter. And
As any parent, right? Like you always want what's best for your
yeah,
kid. Yeah.
and the last thing I wanted to do at the age of 3 is to take her away from her mother. That wasn't my intention. So it just happened that one of us had to have the full custody, and it just happened to be me. So, and also to make it sound like it's something negative is that just because I did it in the past or the way it turned out to be, it does not mean that if something happens with my wife that I'm going to do the same thing. That's not the case, right? So people need to have a different type of mindset when it comes to child. Well, I don't want to break any family. I don't want to break any.
Take a child away from their parent.
Exactly.
And like I feel like that's really like in that way to go into it with that intent would be really hard. It just to me personally, it would mean that you don't really care about the child that much if you are willing to take them away from a parent just for the sake of doing it. So I think a lot of things that happen in our community, and it kind of explains why we wanted to even start this YouTube channel, why I started my journey on Instagram, was we don't really see a lot of blended families. We know they exist, but I know when you and I first got married, we had no one to really reach out to, like nowhere to turn to for guidance to really know if what we were doing and how we were doing things was right. We just did what felt right. Like there was a lot of mistakes in the way, especially for me. Like I feel like it was a learning curve because I wasn't a parent. And
This is you and I getting married. It's your first marriage. This is my second.
yeah,
And
that
trust me,
too.
the first one, nobody told me what I was,
What to expect.
what to expect. Not alone, like even worse when you have your own child, like the whole chemistry, how to raise a child,
Yeah.
to the dean, the differences. Obviously, it was it just there was a lot into it, and I didn't get any support. All a lot of my friends, some of them wasn't even married, so it was just to me, it was just something completely.
You were figuring out on
I
your
was
own.
figuring out on my own,
Yeah.
and that's why once the whole my first marriage, ended, it took me 5 years before I got into another relationship. So I was able to understand more about the how to treat a wife and how to treat your wife and having more kids. What was the expectation? How
Yeah.
to raise your kids? If it's a girl,
Yeah.
if it's a boy,
Yeah.
the differences. So it took me 5 years, watching videos, watching chefs talks about, marriage relate, the situation that happens in marriages. Not everything has to be black and white. Just
Yeah.
because you had an argument doesn't mean that your
It's
whole
the end
relationship
of the world.
has
Yeah.
ended. And we
Yeah.
do watch a couple of videos when people say if you have issues with your spouse, should you involve families? And I sometimes think about those things, but I also want to be private. I don't like my family or her family get involved.
Yeah.
So we're always learning.
Of
It's
course.
gonna be 6 years this year. We don't have all the answers, and one of the reasons why we started this YouTube channel is to share our
Journey.
journey.
Yeah. Wallahi, it's definitely not bragging. Like, trust me, it's not easy. It's very hard. Like, I feel like just raising kids in general is hard. And for us, I think one of the things that we just mutually agreed on was not to use any terms. So there's no such thing as half siblings. There's no such thing as stepmom, stepdaughter. Like, we took those out of our vocabulary pretty early on. And that's just was to help everybody kind of like blend a little bit easier. But we didn't cut off contact with anyone. My stepdaughter still has contact with her mom, and that's never going to be our situation to take that away. Especially, wallahi, I would say, like, both of us in a way kind of grew up without our mothers ourselves, so we can relate to that. So it's nothing that we ever want to do or done maliciously. And I feel like for me to answer those questions was just to clarify some things that I get common questions that I receive. It was a fun video to make. And for those of you who follow me on TikTok, you can go take a look. There was no intent behind it, no bragging whatsoever. It's not like he's just going around and just.
Personally, I I always ignore those comments, and alhamdulillah, that's one of the main reasons why I don't have social media. She has social media; she can do whatever she wants.
I can't ignore it.
I don't get
Can't.
triggered about these things because I know trolls exist. So you can say whatever you want behind the screen.
Those are
you're
called
allowed
internet thugs.
you're allowed to your opinion, but to
Yeah.
think that to raise a child is just a game, you know, uh, those 5 years I've learned a lot. So alhamdulillah, I was able
Alhamdulillah.
to learn more about myself
Yeah.
and see how, the way to raise a daughter,
You also
to raise a
realize,
boy, it would have been a lot easier, but to raise a little girl was a lot.
especially for you, like, yeah, I get it. I think the other point I wanted to make is you understood single mothers on a different perspective.
Of course, of course. But the thing
Yeah.
is, single mothers is different, right? I was still working. I didn't have this mindset of like, stay home. I was getting a lot of help from some of my friends, moms and aunts. So they were dropping her, picking her up. So I had some help. I was able to work, focus on that, so that I can provide for my daughter. But overall, a lot of them single mothers, they do everything on their own. So,
Yeah, it's a lot harder.
yeah.
It's a lot harder. But at the end of the day, wallahi, like, I think if you go into it with the right intentions, that's it. Hope for the best. And one of the comments that actually made me pretty sad is the one where they said, like, they've never seen a stepmom and a step kid be this happy. And alhamdulillah, I'm glad that we are able to be that example. Like, we have a regular teenage daughter and mom relationship. We're not always on the best of terms. Like, sometimes we disagree, but this is where, right, parenting comes in. And just like there is good parents and bad parents, there is good step parents and good and bad step
Yeah,
parents.
she thinks a lot about these type of
Yeah.
things. To me,
Wallahi,
honestly,
yeah, I do.
in our household, alhamdulillah, everything's good.
Alhamdulillah.
It's just that sometimes you have to explain yourself and provide some explanation on some certain things.
Yeah.
She's not your daughter. Who is she and why is stuff? To me, I don't care. but to her, it really hits home. So that's why we took the moment today to provide
To
some
just clarify,
insights.
yeah,
Yeah.
because again, we're open to any questions. Leave the comments, leave like message us personally, send us a message on our email, and just let us know what your thoughts are if you're going through similar situations. I didn't know there was that many people going through same situation as you and I, or even like going through court situations for legal guardianship or anything like that until I made my Instagram and I got a lot of DMs. So alhamdulillah, I think we touched up a little bit on that. And again, we're just figuring out as we go, wallahi. That's pretty much it.
That's it. So inshallah,
Yeah.
I hope that clears,
Clears that up. Yeah.
clears it up. So
Inshallah.
if you do have more questions, feel free to comment.
Don't
Or
forget to
don't forget to like,
subscribe.
and
We are
comment.
almost at 400.
Yes.
I'm actually pretty amazed, mashallah, alhamdulillah for all that. But yeah, so
Inshallah.
we're counting on you guys.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
All right, guys. See you in the next episode, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.